Today is Tuesday, November 14th. The New York Jets release running back Michael Carter, and I want to talk to Frankie Vittorini of UStadium about this release. Frankie, how you doing, man?
What's up, Ryan, my guy? Everything's good, dude. Everything's good. Besides having to watch this miserable ass team every week, but everything else is good. Living like I can.
That's all you can do, right? So we're in the middle of the season. Obviously, the Jets dropped Sunday night's game against the Raiders. Michael Carter, a player that was drafted in the fourth round. He played only on third downs this season, and his role, obviously, on this offense, it wasn't working. He wasn't really that effective on third down. He had a couple drops this year. And then we saw on Sunday night's game, he had an illegal chop block, a killer penalty, just like all the other ones we saw on Sunday, which continues to be a theme for this Jets team. They decide to release him today, Tuesday. This gives an opportunity, obviously, for Izzy Abanikanda to be hopefully active on the roster, get a chance to play a really highly touted prospect that the Jets drafted this past season, maybe give a bigger role to Dalvin Cook as well, and even expand Breece Hall on third down to give him more opportunities. But when you heard the news today that Michael Carter did get released, what'd you think, man?
I mean, listen, man, when you have so many offensive woes like the Jets have had over the last couple of weeks / the entire season, and there's just so much ineptitude going on with our offense, you're going to have players come out and be frustrated. We've heard it from Garrett Wilson. This is not sustainable for us. This is not what we want. I'm disappointed. I'm sick of this. You're going to see it happen down the food chain on offense with players like a Michael Carter that are expendable. Garrett Wilson's not expendable right now. There's a bunch of players on our offense that you really can't get rid of. Michael Carter has been a guy that has, aired his grievances with the Jets. He was sort of in that locker room when there was issues going on with Elijah Moore, and They were saying Corey Davis was part of that as well. Guys that weren't happy. He didn't like when Breece got drafted, XYZ. Now, stuff's hitting the fan. And what I think happened was after the game, there was a conversation when he got benched or he got sat down for his chop block, etc. I think he went to Joe D, or he went to Sala, or he went to even Woody potentially, or aired it out with somebody and said, listen, I'm sick of this team. I'm not being utilized. He hasn't done anything this year. The whole season, he has he has less than 40 yards rushing. He hasn't caught more than 15 passes on the year. He doesn't even have 100 yards through the air. We have not utilized him. He knows that. He's pissed. He's someone that's carrying weight. He's got weight on his shoulders from last year and over this season, and things hit the fan. And they said, you know what? You're not worthy enough for us as a player, and get the hell out. So I just think that's what happened, man. It's going to happen when an offense is this inept. Guys like that are going to drop. It's the reality of the NFL.
Yeah, we heard Robert Saleh speak about it on Monday in his press conference about there's going to be personnel changes and that he's not going to elaborate further about what those changes are. And then we get the news, obviously, with Carter getting released. So looking forward with this offense and the struggles they do have, we hear things like Garrett Wilson saying there's a players only meeting that they held today in the locker room, and that it was productive conversation with the players all airing their frustrations and how do we get out of this funk and how do we improve this offense? How do we just become more effective? For me, it's not just the players executing, it's the play calling too from Nathaniel Hackett, right? So when you're looking at personnel changes by getting rid of Michael Carter, maybe opening up more opportunities for Izzy Abanikanda, Dalvin Cook, and Breece Hall, what else can this offense do and Nathaniel Hackett do to just improve and be more efficient, honestly?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, personnel-wise, where are we going to go? Who else is on this roster on offense that we have to utilize or can utilize more? Do you want to give Gibson more touches? We've seen what he's been doing when he gets thrown the football. He's not an effective player. You want to use Dalvin Cook more? I'm fine with that. He's averaging 3.1 yards a carry. Dalvin Cook has been a terrible signing for us. What are we going to do there? You're trying to give Breece more carries? The more you give him carries, the less effective he's going to be, for the mere fact that defenses know what our offense is trying to do. There's really nowhere to go. You want to use Jeremy Ruckert? I'm down if you want. But again, is that going to be a productive move? Is that going to really move the needle for us? The one move this team needs to do, and not to beat a dead horse, but I've been saying it, they have to figure out what they want to do with the quarterback. In my opinion, you have to bench Zach Wilson for a game or give him a half. If he's not scoring points, the Jets have not been able to effectively, score touchdowns. Zach Wilson has one touchdown over his last 5 games.
Yeah.
You gotta try something else. We know what this league is. You can put in a backup that provides a little bit of a spark and things could change. I can talk to you forever about Zach. We can have this convo. We've had it previously, Rye. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to change something that can actually light some spark in the offense, it starts at the quarterback. Hackett's not going anywhere. And we know who Nathaniel Hackett is. We didn't like him when he came here, except there was an asterisk when Nate Hackett came here. Does it mean Rodgers is going to come here? And if so, we were fine with it. That did happen. Thus, we have Nate Hackett here. It's a badly constructed offense because when Rodgers went down, we gave the keys to a quarterback that is not ready or may never be ready, or we ruined. However you want to slice it, you can slice it. It is what it is. The numbers speak for themselves. And you have an offensive coordinator that's running traditional styles of plays that really don't work, especially with this quarterback and the receiving core for the most part outside of Garrett. There's not much movement here. There's a reason Hardman didn't work out. It's not creative enough. It's not unique. There's no motions. They don't even really do anything in terms of even in the play action game. The one good play we had last week was that play action. And did you see how things just opened up?
Yeah.
We ran that play action. Did you see we had a 41-yard gain to Garrett? This coordinator is dependent on Aaron. We have to admit to ourselves that this offense is not going to change unless we change the quarterback. And maybe that won't work either, but that's our only play right now. There's nothing else. Who else is going to come in here and do anything?
I don't know. When Salah says personnel changes, I think CJ Uzama should not be on the field anymore, if I'm being honest. I think he's a detriment to this offense. The holding penalties are absolutely killer. He dropped a touchdown catch last week. For me, watching him play, it just looks lifeless. He looks like he's not trying. That holding penalty that gave back that brought the Breece Hall touchdown back, he tackled Crosby when Crosby's already over pursuing inside. And it's like, you didn't have to do that. You really didn't. And for me, he's getting paid $15 million or so a year to just put that kind of effort on the field. I don't know why he's playing anymore. And if I were Nathaniel Hackett, I'd be like, you're not playing. I'm going to Ruckert. I'm going to Conklin. We can't play you anymore. You clearly are not helping us. The other thing is that their number 2 receiver that they gave all this money to, in Allen Lazard, he's turning out to be a real bust too. Because if I'm being frank with you, he comes up lazy on routes. He might be playing hurt. I don't know, but he's just not an explosive playmaker like a Garrett Wilson is, or even a Tyler Conklin is, or Breece Hall. And you're lacking that second option right now if you're Zach Wilson in the passing game, because it's Garrett Wilson and no one else. That's the problem right now. And to your point, there is nothing else you can do to add to this team. Izzy Abanikanda is going to get a chance, but he's not going to do as much as you think as a running back when you're behind Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook already on the depth chart. The quarterback position. There's a common denominator here when you look at the Jets offense over the past 3 years with Zach Wilson, and you compare it to any other quarterback playing, and whether it's in LaFleur's system the past 2 seasons. We haven't seen it in Hackett's this year, but the offense always plays better when there's a different quarterback there. They produce more yards. They produce more points. It's statistically there. Zach's one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. If you really want to compare QBRs and you want to compare touchdown rates, it's just not pretty. So meanwhile, you could say he played a decent game against the Raiders Sunday. The point is you're not scoring points. You're scoring field goals. You're not scoring touchdowns. You're not getting the ball in the end zone, especially when you get in the red zone and on third down. They might have been better Sunday night, but they were one of those most historical third down offenses coming into Sunday night's game against the Raiders. It's just, for me, it's like you said, it's a predictable offense. They don't motion much. They play. We're going to run the ball right at you, and we're going to get maybe a play action or 2 shot down the field. It's a very predictable offense. And
Ryan, and there's 2 things. There's 2 reasons that have Zach Wilson continuing to start. There's two reasons, and two reasons only. Reason number one, we invested so much in Aaron Rodgers coming here, and Woody Johnson emptied his pockets to get a guy like Dalvin Cook to pay him $7.5 million to build a team around Aaron Rodgers. And that obviously fell flat due to the injury. Not Woody's fault. He did what he had to do. Point number two, I'm telling you this right now, and I don't know if you agree with me, but this is my suspicion. There are people in that front office, in that ownership group, which stinks, that's another convo, that think that there's something there with Zach Wilson for the long term. And he shows something there where it's like, how the hell did you do that? That no-look pass. How do you do that? He's got a fantastic
the Hail Mary
arm.
bomb at the end. I get it. He's got all the tools. He's got all the talent. But here's the thing. And you see this time and time again, and you're burning yourself by thinking this and believing this. NFL quarterback's the toughest position to play. You can have all the talent in the world, but you got to have the processing power. If you can't process how the defense is coming at you or how they're going to defend you, and you can't dissect it, you're just not going to play well in the NFL. It's plain and simple. It's a quick game. You got to be able to process the information as quickly as possible and get the ball out of your hands as quickly as possible, or run it yourself, which Zach, again, has that ability, but the processing time is just not there. And you're already playing behind a terrible offensive line, which, not to mention, again, was poorly constructed, if we're being honest again. So it's tough.
But I'll say that's this, though. We as Jet fans, right? We cannot blame things like the O-line necessarily, or the fact that we have Allen Lazard. How many teams do you give a quarterback top two defense? I think it's the best defense in football, but whatever. Top
in
two
Pro Football Focus is number one rated. So
yeah, and last year it was also, I believe, we're number two behind San Fran. You give a quarterback that defense, and you give a quarterback Garrett Wilson, who's a top 10 wide receiver. Then you give him Breece Hall, who's a top 6 or 7, top 5, if you want to say running back. What else do you want to give him? You want to give him a top 10 offensive line? You want to give him top 5 tight ends? Then what? You have a Pro Bowl team? I mean, how many things with Zach Wilson? I want to see one thing, and then I'll stop ripping him. I want to see his actual ceiling, because you see these radio shows, WFAN today, saying, oh, you know, what Zach Wilson's ceiling could be. What could his ceiling be? He's never thrown 3 touchdowns in an NFL game. Never. 30 tries, not once. He doesn't get lucky once. How does that arm not give you 3 touchdowns? Has he ever dominated a football game from play 1 till the last play of the game? Drive 1, has he been consistent? They can't even put together a game plan around him having a first series where you're getting points. The first time it happened was this past Sunday. Enough is enough. Either the team has to realize we messed up so bad developing this kid, it's over, the plate is cracked, let him go, move on, or you have to figure out a completely other way to get a backup quarterback in here. We messed up not getting someone like Gardner Minshew, and then Carson Wentz puts our feet to the fire for a contract that we didn't want to pay for, which I'm
not sweating that decision at all. I am not sweating that decision.
But you know,
Carson Wentz is horrible.
But how mid is the AFC this year? We didn't realize it.
You could have got Ryan Tannehill, if I'm being honest with you. You should have traded for Ryan Tannehill. Plain and simple. You should have traded for him.
Anybody. And you see quarterbacks like Will Levis come in, their first freaking game, they have 4 touchdowns. Zach's never had 3. You see CJ Stroud, an actual second overall pick, how good they can be. Granted, not every pick works out. As a matter of fact, Trevor Lawrence stinks this year. He's not playing that well.
It's not been good.
Yeah, it's not an exact science. Trey Lance, he's a nobody now. Mac Jones stinks. It happens. It's part of playing the position, right? It's part of being a quarterback. It's part of developing one.
Yeah.
However, my issue is this Jets team has the potential to make a playoff run because of that defense, and because you're giving the ball at times, if you could figure it out, to Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. You have to try something with the quarterback to spark it up. You benched him already last year. You already cracked the
when he was 5-2.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go. It's mind-boggling. We're like ruining this freaking season. And honestly, I don't know why. I legitimately don't know why.
I think it comes down to something you alluded to. It's probably the ownership not wanting to give up on him because he's a number 2 overall pick. I think Joe Douglas is smart enough to admit his mistakes and would have liked to have moved on by now. I think ownership might have pushed him back a little bit and said, we're not cutting this kid loose after 2 years coming into this offseason
Yeah.
and going into this year. And the other thing is I blame this coaching staff. I really do. I blame Nathaniel Hackett. I blame Robert Saleh most of all. I think they're coaching scared. I think they coach in the belief that they can hold teams to under 20 points defensively because they can, and they're that good. But they only think that, we just have to score a couple field goals, get a couple turnovers, we'll make a play on defense or special teams. And we don't need the offense to do that much. And we just need Zach not to turn the ball over. I think they're still coaching scared.
It reminds me of the Rex Ryan days.
But
After
even
those
more,
first
it's the
even
Rex
worse.
Ryan model, but even heightened now because
Yeah.
they don't trust the quarterback to let him loose and actually rip it. Because you've said it, and we've said it, and we've seen it. He has the talent, he can do it, but you haven't let him rip it, and you haven't let him play free and loose. So for me, that's why this team is never going to take that next step unless you finally let the kids say, go out, no restrictions, let it loose, throw it wherever you want. If you see it, throw it. Like, we're not going to put any restrictions on you, play calling wise. But until that happens, I don't see it improving. I don't see this offense getting any better. Even with the cutting of a running back, that was honestly just a third down back at this point. That's how I see it going right now, Frankie.
Yeah, and what you're going to do is you're going to start alienating players from the team. You're going to start having players that just don't believe in what you're preaching. Why? Because you're throwing up L's in the win-loss column. That's going to hit its head. And Robert Saleh, for the first time, is starting to feel the heat. He's starting to feel the New York media heat. It's a tough market. We will run you out of town. Unfortunately, it's not always great. I actually think Saleh's a good dude, but you're going to get run out of town, brother. Like, it's going to happen. And you cannot continuously just be okay with it's not even if it was below average, whatever, you kind of, you're okay, I guess, if you win here and there, whatever. We're not even average, we're below average. This is every week. We are the worst offense in football every week for 2 years. Are you going to try something? Then we bring in Mike White, who has a big game. And then he gets hurt because we're cursed, whatever. But then it's like the same thing over and over again. Try something. You have a great defense. Zach Wilson's not a long-term solution here. Why don't they try something? And that might not be the answer. And I don't blame Jet fans also that think, oh, Trevor Simeon's not going to do anything different, or Tim Boyle. Yeah, you're probably right also. However, you're probably right. I know we're not right with this kid saying back there. That's the difference. Try something, roll the dice, or else the season's going to end with us going 8-9. I hate these new records, by the way. I used to miss 8-8. We're going 8-9, and we're going to miss the playoffs. And what? We're going to wait for Rodgers, and then we're going to go through another, high in the offseason, and we're going to maybe get Devontae Adams, and then it's just not to rant more, but it comes down to the ownership. Woody Johnson has done a bad job as an owner of this team, and there's nothing else to be said. He has no control over how things are run. He has no consistency in his strategy. He has no willingness to make changes in season that could affect the team's play. Why did we not trade for a quarterback? Why did we not trade Zach when we in the offseason for something like the 49ers did? Why are we so stubborn? And why do we put all of our eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket? I don't understand. But I'm saying, Ryan, you can't. But you had time now.
No, it was a huge miscalculation. It was. They miscalculated the backup quarterback position tremendously, and they're paying for it. You could have had any other backup quarterback instead of Zach Wilson, and they'd be in a much better position right now. We all know that. It's unfortunate to see, and we'll see how the situation plays out. They got the Bills this Sunday. Bills coming off a really bad loss. They're reeling. Josh Allen's turning the ball off. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. We'll see how it goes, man. But I appreciate you giving me some insight, man, and talking through this kind of as a therapy session. But
I appreciate you, man. I need a therapist anyway. So you're perfect, dude. Whenever you need me on.
No, yeah, the Jets are our therapy, but not really. They're just our misery, and we love it. So thank you, Frankie.
Yeah, we're gluttons for punishment. For some reason, we almost get then we get more excited when they lose, so we can complain them when they win and we have nothing to say.
You're the best, Frank. Thank you, man.
You too, right? Thanks, brother.